Good morning, everyone. I'm using the new live producer here on Facebook, and so I don't see comments here. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Anyways, welcome. It is 9:45 on Wednesday morning. I always hesitate when I think of the days. Every week I do that. Anyways, welcome. This is our daily devotional, and yesterday Pastor Sam shared, and that is now in our Facebook archives. It's also up on YouTube, so if you missed it, you can follow along there. And we'll do another one tomorrow at 9:45. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 9:45. Good morning, Karen. Yeah, it is bright in my office. Good morning, Sam. Welcome, everyone. So this morning, if you missed it, we had our live draw for the Starbucks, the $5 Starbucks card. Each week we send out newsletters, and if you have not signed up for the newsletters, I'll put a link in the comments in just a second. And then recently I've started to give away prizes according to who answers the trivia question correctly. When we aren't doing social isolation, I sometimes meet some of you for coffee here and there, and so I can't do that right now. So instead, I guess this is one way of meeting with you for coffee. So each week there's a trivia question in our newsletter. And the first week, Cheyenne was the winner. This week, today, Jobina was the winner. And if you send in the answer to the question, I'll put your name into my handy dandy little app here that I have, and I'll spin the wheel. And then we'll see who wins. This week, it won't be Starbucks. There's a local business right here in Windsor Park, not a very short walk from the church. And it's a bakery and ice cream shop. And so they've just opened again for the season. And so let's support our local businesses because a lot of them are suffering, and we'll give you a gift card for them. So again, if you haven't signed up, let me just put that link in there right now before I start the devotional, if I can find my mouse here. And let's see what happens if I do this. Awesome. Okay. Sign up for our newsletters here if you have not already. So this morning, this is been doing a lot of reading and research for our series on hurry, and the sermon series called "The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry," which is the title of a book. It's also the famous quote from Dallas Willard, who has been a mentor to many pastors. And so there's a lot of material that I can't cover in every message. The last two messages are up online if you want to listen to them. And so it's just this is piggybacking on the sermon from a couple weeks ago, when we talked about having limitations, accepting your limitations, and being able to say, just to know what God has given you in that time. It helps us to be able to know what we should say no to, etc. But anyways, that's up online if you want to watch that. In Matthew chapter 4, it's a very famous passage. It's not only in Matthew, it's in other Gospels as well. When Jesus, after his baptism, he is led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And for 40 days he's hungry, and then the tempter comes to tempt him with 3 different temptations, and he's able to withstand them all, and then he launches, his public ministry is launched. And so I often had an image of Jesus going out into the desert, for those 40 days, and it's hot, and there's nothing there, and it's sandy, and which is maybe an accurate image, but the NIV says wilderness, and many other recent translations use the word wilderness instead of desert, and that word is the Greek word called eremos, and that could be desert, or it could be wilderness, or it could just be a solitary place, and just something that is uninhabited, and it's deserted by others. It could be just a place that is wild, and so, for example, shepherds could go there and they're free. There's no boundaries. It kind of doesn't belong to anyone, and so there's freedom for pastors, for pasture, for their sheep. But in the scripture, it's often the place where God meets his people, where God richly reveals himself and shows that he provides for those who are seeking him. And And so it's not simply just a place. It is often used in many times in Scripture. So it could be wilderness. It could be like a barren, just a lonely, solitary place. And we see that Jesus did this often. The same word, this Greek word, is used in Luke chapter 4, verse 42, and in the NIV it's translated as solitary place. So it's in Luke chapter 4, verse 42, it says, "At daybreak, Jesus went out to a solitary place, somewhere alone, away from the crowds." The verse continues, "The people were looking for him. And so when they came to where he was, they tried to keep him from leaving them, but Jesus was constantly, often, looking up for this desert, wilderness, solitary place." And so the same word, even in Jesus, the temptation is translated as solitary place or deserted place or desert or wilderness. Also, Matthew chapter 14, Jesus feeds 5,000 people. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Again, that same word is translated here as a solitary place. And here the crowds followed him again. They're like, "I want to get to him." They keep following him. And also again in Mark chapter 1, verse 35, the NIV translated again as a solitary place. Very early in the morning while it was still dark, so before sunrise, Jesus got up, he left the house and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. And so the idea, Jesus launches his ministry going to a solitary place. He concludes his public ministry before up to his death in a solitary place in the Garden of Gethsemane. He sought that out. And so this is a pattern that Jesus has done over and over again. And so I want to encourage us again, and myself included, to find maybe not a desert or a wilderness, but a solitary place, a place to get away from your family, maybe get away from your spouse, to get away from your work, to get away from everything that's keeping our lives busy. And so to get away and find a solitary place for a good portion of the day. We don't need to do 40 days and 40 nights as Jesus did when he was tested by the devil, but let's try to find some place. So what we've done on our website at cornerstonealliance.church, there is a prayer tab at the top. And if you just go there and click on the prayer tab, you'll see lots of resources there. And there's a recommendation that I've used, and I'll use this again. So, and then maybe next week I'll let you know how it went for me. If you scroll down, you'll see how to have a quiet time, suggestions. And so if you click on that, there is a suggested format for a day of prayer. And if you click on the link, then you'll get a PDF. And this is just a suggestion, but it's hard for maybe some of us to imagine spending a whole day praying. Sometimes 5 minutes seems too long for us. And so if you're able to find some time, talk with your family, talk with your spouse, talk with whoever you need to, and try to arrange a time when you can get away. If it's only half a day, then that's great too. It's this PDF that can be put into half a day, and this, if you work through this and follow the instructions there, you could find yourself spending 6 hours one day in prayer. The weather is really nice right now. It's supposed to be, with the humidex, they said over 30. I feel like 33 today or something. So hopefully it stays like that for the next little while, and maybe over this next week we can go to a park. Kildonan Park is nice, Assiniboine Park at St. Vital, or to a provincial park, Birds Hill, or maybe just a quiet area around, or maybe not as ideal, but if your family could leave you home in your own home, but there's a lot of distractions there. But if you can find a place and take some snacks with you, and see if you can try it out and see, because this is something Jesus did often. He went to his eremos, he went to his solitary place, and so I'm just going to put that out there, and the resources are there, and I'll try this out too, and then next week I'll let you know how it went for me. I've done this several times before, but I have not done it lately, and so this is something I would like to try now that the weather is good. So why don't you give that a try? Go to cornerstonealliance.church, check out the prayer tab at the top, and spend a good amount of time in our solitary place and see what happens. So that's just a challenge. Anyways, thanks for joining us, and I'll close the video for now, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning at 9:45.